Introducing our first speaker is his brother, Ted Buckley.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having us here. In brief, just a couple of things. First, I would be remiss if I didn't say this right off front. I was in Edison, New Jersey 2 weeks ago. I had the privilege of hearing Pamela Geller speak. She said two things that stuck out with me right away. She said, fellow Americans, the enemy is here. And the next day was Boston, okay? And the next day was Boston. Think about it, because when I heard it, I pulled over my car and I went into an appliance store and I watched it on TV and I was dumbfounded. But the lady speaks the truth, and it's a privilege to be near her anytime. Number two, some of you have, we handed out some of these pamphlets. What these are, basically, it's the United States Senators, a lot of them across the country, with email addresses and phone numbers. And what my brother and our Buckley family really wants is for us to contact as many. We were encouraged to do so, actually, by Peter King, other people. I really can't get into all of them. But we were encouraged to put out as many letters and phone calls and email addresses as possible to these people, because, believe it or not, it's bounced back to us that the Buckley name has been heard throughout the United States, actually overseas also. Because of my brother didn't decide to just say, okay, it happened and call it a day. He decided that he wanted to do something about it and stand up. We strongly advocate thanking a vet for their service, supporting our troops wherever they serve in this world, and honoring the memory of ones who gave their lives for our country. And what better way to honor his son, my nephew, than would be to make sure that everybody out there contacts their representatives, whether it be on a state or city, state, federal level, and lets them know their views on how we feel about the war, about the policies that led to my nephew being unarmed in a gym working out when he was murdered. And my brother will get into that. But just in brief, I'll keep it short, 'cause, it's hot here. But I just want to tell you, we're everybody. We're not just Buckleys, we're Weinsteins, we're Gallows, we're Gagers, we're Smiths, we're everybody. He wasn't just our kid. He wasn't just our kid, he was your kid, okay? Look at that poster, that's your kid. And I want everybody to understand fully that today, well, it wasn't today, it was unfortunately August the 10th of last year, but, it was him then, and, then it was others, and we wanted to end. And green on blue killings, insider attacks have been escalating. We all know, if you read the papers, watch the news, you'll see that the spring offensive is coming with the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. Killings are going to rise. I guarantee you, if you go on a Long War Journal or Stars and Stripes, you'll see the count. And unfortunately, not to point fingers, but there really weren't that many green on blue killings under the Bush administration, but under the Obama administration, they've risen dramatically. The numbers are there, they speak for themselves, and it's not pointing fingers, but fact is a fact. It's not just us, it's NATO forces, they're all dying too throughout, people from England are getting killed this way. It's terrible, we're not getting the protection that we need. I think that we should be, personally, I think that we should have been the hell out of there a long time ago. But as long as our boys are going to serve somewhere, wherever they serve, they should be protected to the best of the government's ability. That's it. The government should have our boys' backs and our women's backs, that are serving in the military. That's all I'm saying here. We really should, the government has to have our backs. And we're looking for a full and honest investigation. We have yet, it's 8 months now, we have yet, the Buckley family, to receive anything in writing from Washington stating exactly what happened that fateful day to not only Lance Corporal Gregory Buckley, Corporal Richie Rivera, Sergeant Scott Dickinson. All three were murdered at the same exact time. There was a fourth, his name eludes me. He was shot 5 times, he survived, he's in rehab in California. There was 3 others, fortunately they didn't get hit. We know who they are, we've spoken to them, my brother has met them. you know, it's just, it shouldn't have happened, and it did, and unfortunately, it continued to happen, and we spoke out, and because we spoke out, we're not looking for any pat on the back, but because we spoke out, our boys and girls were armed more on their bases, and we got emails and phone calls from all across the country thanking us for, you know, standing out as much as we did. So, without further ado, this is it's my brother, Greg Buckley, the father of Lance Corporal Gregory Buckley.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. As you can imagine, it's not easy for me, and I'm not a public speaker, or did I ever want to be one? I think it's too much pressure, to be honest with you. But when something's so close to you, as my son was to me, a lot of people know the story. He's my oldest boy. And he was just a great kid, my best friend. Just a wonderful boy. I know everybody says the kids are great. Really, they're a pain in the ass, but this kid was incredible. I never had a problem with him. Always did his homework on time. He was just a punctual type of kid. And when he was a young boy, he decided when his brother, my brother and two other guys, when 9/11 happened, we were on Flatbush Avenue in Brooklyn, and everybody was coming out, and we jumped in my truck and we went over the bridge and we went down to the Trade Center and helped out the fire department and police department for 2 days, and I wasn't home and couldn't get in touch with my boy. And you know, I got home, he was extremely upset, he thought something happened to us, you know. And I didn't think it affected him much. You know, he was a kid. But as time went on, I found out when he was around 14, he told us that he was going to join the Marine Corps. I looked at him like, okay, go to bed. And he said, no, Dad, he says, I have to do this, I want to do this. I said, you're only 14, you don't even know what you're going to wear tomorrow to school. So he says, no, I really want to do this, you know, he says, you know, it's only right, I have to, you know, protect this country, and, you know, being a Marine is the best thing to do, and plus I want to be a cop when I get older. And I own my own company, and I said, no, you're my oldest son, you're going to run my company. He goes, no, I'm not. He says, that works too hard. I'm going to be a Nassau cop. So he says, first I'll go to the Marines for 4 years and, you know, try to make a difference. And that's the type of kid he was, always wanted to make a difference. So I just blew it off and didn't pay it any mind, and when he was 16 years old, I came home from work at 8:30, and there was a recruiter in my house waiting for me. As you can imagine, I wasn't too happy. So I turned around, I walked in, I said, Mr. Johnson, you know, please gather all your belongings and get out of my house right now. So he got his stuff and he left. Good idea. I wasn't happy at all because I didn't believe that my son should even join the Marine Corps, because I don't believe in what's going on over there. I don't believe that we should be there. I don't believe it, you know, even more now than ever. But he begged me and begged me and begged me and told me that if I didn't sign him up at 16, he was going to do it on his own. So, to make a long story short, we signed him up 2 months later. I couldn't change his mind. Made an agreement with the recruiter that he wouldn't step foot in Afghanistan, that he would get a civilian job. This is the agreement that I had. Everything was written down on paper. He went, the boot camp went to Hawaii, had it great over there. I was with him twice. Then he came home last year. He was in there for 2.5 years, almost 3 years. Came home, and my birthday last year, to surprise me, and told me that he was going to go back to Hawaii, and then he was going to leave to Afghanistan in 2 weeks. And you know, you can imagine, as a parent, I never thought he would step foot in there. He had a civilian job. He was working the import-export in the warehouse, shipping supplies out from Hawaii. It winds up, I was upset about it. His mom, his brothers were very upset about it. And he said, I'll be okay, don't worry about it, everything will be good. They're making me go. I said, I don't believe that. I made a few phone calls, they wouldn't answer me. Greg went. he turned around, he called me, I think it was the beginning of May, and he said, I just got here, and you know, it's not that bad, there's a plasma TV, and you know, everything's good. But he didn't realize that 2 days later they were going to ship him out. And they shipped him out to a hellhole. I didn't hear from my son for 2 weeks. So he called me one night, I woke up in the middle of the night, I answered the phone, and he's like, you know, Pop. I said, what's up? He says, you ain't not going to believe where I'm at. He says, I'm in hell. I said, what are you talking about? He says, they shipped me out, and now I'm over here training the police. And he says, it's not a good place. So we couldn't really talk that well, and we hung up the phone, and he called me back 2 weeks later when he got some time, and he explained to me what they're doing over there, training, you know, the military, and he said it's just not a good place for me to be at. And he says, my friends feel the same. I says, I don't understand what you're talking about. He goes, we're training these people over here. And he says, and at the end of the day, he says, these people are going to turn their weapons on us and murder us here. So, as a dad, you know, you don't want to hear your 20-year-old boy say that to you. So I said, go talk to your superiors. He goes, I have. So did Rivera, and so did Oliver and all the other guys. And there's nothing we can do over here. Our rights are taken away from us. I said, you're a Marine. Nobody takes your rights from you. He goes, in Afghanistan, they take your rights. You have none. He goes, we're not allowed to look at them with our sunglasses on. We have to take them off. We can't talk about our kids, our wives, our moms, our dads to them. We can't have conversations with them. We go to shake their hands. If they stick their finger out at us, we have to shake their finger. We can't shake their hand. The rules and regulations that are over there are outrageous, and we don't know about them over here because they don't want us to know about them. And he told me, he says, have you heard about green on blue? And I said, no, not really. And a lot of people didn't. Green on blue is a military on military attack. So what he was trying to get to is that there's a lot of kids over there that are dying green on blue, and they're saying, you know, making up stories and telling us what, you know, other things. And of course the media tells you one thing and the truth is the truth, but the media will never print the truth because they all lost their way years and years and years ago. I mean, I can go on and on about this, and it's devastating to me. But everybody has to seem to understand what's going on in this country right now is probably the worst thing ever. I don't have to stand here and talk bad about Barack Obama or his cabinet or anything else like that. You know, you just see what's going on in the world right now. They're destroying themselves. The man has no compassion for the military, and he's destroying the military little by little. He's turning young men and women off the military. I have people that have came to me, I've met more people than I've ever known in my life, and military men have came to me and told me there's less boys joining our military now than ever before. And the reason they're not joining the military, rightfully so. Why would you join a military if your government doesn't care anything about you? You know, I found out that my son's over there training these guys, but we're paying them also. We spend trillions of dollars over in Afghanistan training these people over there, and at the end of it, my son said they're all terrorists, most of them. Not every single one, don't get me wrong, but a lot of them are. And he says they're evil people, Dad. He says these kids are beautiful. He loves the little kids. The kids in Afghanistan, when they found out that my son was executed, they cried and they were so upset and they wanted to know where that boy was. Because my son used to turn around and hang out with the little kids early in the morning and fill up cups and make them stick their fingers in the cups and brush their teeth. That's the type of kid my kid was. He was just an all-around great, 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 lovable kid. And everybody was devastated when this happened to him. But it should have not happened to him if another parent would have took the initiative to step up to the plate and say, this is what's going on over there. I am stepping up and saying what I have to say because I don't want it to happen again. As you can see, ladies, not guys, ladies, how handsome this boy was. He was just a beautiful young man, and that's what's heart-wrenching. But I'm asking everybody that I speak to, and a great next 700 people, is to adopt this boy and take him as your own son. And feel the pain that I'm feeling, that if it was one of your kids, you know, all he wanted to do was the right thing. And the sad part about this, he shouldn't even have been in Afghanistan. When I went to Dover to pick up my son, he was taken off the plane in a box with a flag, American flag wrapped around him. He died for this country. And all I'm asking is for this country to turn around and give back to this young man and get justice for him. That's all I'm asking. On August 10th at 8:30 at night, after my son was done training the military all day, and the police, whatever you want to call those people over there, he turned around, came into his chow house, they all sat down, they all ate. And one of the older superior officers in the Afghan police department walked over and said to my son and his friends that you guys are leaving in 2 days. Now, they all looked at this guy like, how did they know this? You know, Greg was really supposed to come home in November. But he turned around on August 8th, said, you're leaving in 2 days? And they all looked at this guy and they didn't even say anything to him. But then they all said to each other, how would they know something like that? You know, how would the Afghans know that? Winds up, they didn't pay it any mind, and Greg went upstairs and got changed, put his shorts on and his tank top and his headphones, and went downstairs to the gym, unarmed, to go work out with his friends. And they were laughing and joking around about going home in 2 days, and they were so happy, all of them, about they were leaving. My kid couldn't be any happier. You know, he was surprising his mom and his two brothers by coming home early, and he was going to get to see his little brother Justin play football. For the first time, he was going to get to see him play football in high school. And he wanted me to keep it a surprise and not let anybody know about it. And I didn't tell anybody. But that night at 8:30, the superior officer that was running the facility out there, Sadwar John, or something like that, I'm sorry, can't think of his name, or do I want to know his name, really? He had a T-boy in his facility, in the police facility, that he wasn't supposed to have in there. He was told repeatedly to remove this boy from there. He was a T-boy, and a lot of people don't know who T-boys are. T-boys are sex slaves to the Afghani officers. They're slaves. I don't mean to be, you know, disrespectful by no means, but they get them when they're 12 years old. This is the mentality that we're dealing with. They get them when they're 12 years old. They're given to them by another family member, and then they use them as sex slaves. And they have them dance for them at night and make them do errands for them. They're a slave. And whatever they tell them to do, they must do. And if they don't, they'll beat them and kill them. That's just the way it is in Afghanistan. If you don't believe me, it's, you know, knowledge. Just go on, you know, Google it. You know, T-boys or dancing boys, and you're going to see this. I didn't really know much about it until now. And I'm sorry, you know, I apologize that I didn't find out about all of this sooner. Nobody spoke out about it, nobody said anything about it. That's why I'm speaking out about it, to give other people knowledge. So maybe you're going to turn around and tell somebody else, and somebody else will tell somebody else, and we'll go on and on from there. And you know what? It's enough already. We need to make changes here. My son was executed on August 10th at 8:30 at night while he was in a gymnasium, working out, smiling, laughing, and having a great time, and not just wanting to come home. And I, as a father, have a hard time with that, because a month before that, my son was on the phone with me in the middle of the night telling me, Dad, I just want to come home. I don't want to be here no more. It's not that I'm afraid. He goes, but I know they're going to murder me here. I feel it. How does a 20-year-old boy at the time know that he's going to be murdered? And our own government doesn't know that these young boys are going to be murdered over there. 62 of them last year were murdered on insider attacks. If my son would have died on the battlefield, I would accept it, deal with it, and move on with my life. I cannot move on with my life and look at his two little brothers and just walk away and accept this. It's hard. It's hard for me. picture I got here. This picture right here. He went to kindergarten, first day, and he said, while he was waiting for the bus, he was so happy to go on the bus, and it goes through my head every day of him just saying to me, when I come home from school, are you going to be there for me? And I repeated it to him, that I'll always be there for you, Greg. Always. And you know what? I'm not bragging. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm a pretty tough guy. But it hurts me so much. I have to live with this the rest of my life. That I wasn't there to help him. And at night, I hear him all the time saying, I just want to come home, Dad. It's not that he's a Marine, he had his boys, but those Marines over there have their hands tied. Our government makes them stand down. Stand down meaning you have to wait to be fired on first. After an Afghan police officer fires at you, you can repeat and fire back at him. You're not allowed to have your bullet in your chamber. They are. They're allowed to walk around the base with it. Greg had to sleep with these guys every night, 30 of them underneath him. And he slept upstairs with his 30 Marines. And they had people coming in and out all night, T-boys and whatever. There's no supervision. We have no rights over there. And there's nothing we can do because Karzai's a piece of shit. Stands there and apologizes for burning the Koran that we know was dirty, so we had to turn around and burn it, you know. He turned around and he apologized for all these other little stupid things that happened over there. But Karzai, you know, there's hundreds of soldiers that are being murdered over there. Sneaky. There was one just recently, he was stabbed in the back while he was playing with a bunch of kids outside in front of the base. Stabbed him in the back, 26 years old, he was dead. And he even told his own mother and family that he wasn't going to come home. How are these boys going to Afghanistan and knowing that they're not going to die in the mountains, they're going to die on the ground where they're supposed to be safe? Then they're not safe. Not in the mountains, not walking through the streets because they get blown up all the time. It happens over and over again. We're wasting our time there. I don't want to get off the track of what I need from everybody. And I'm not asking for much. If you look into this, you're going to realize everything I'm saying is true. We have to turn around and remove these boys from Afghanistan and bring them home here. Now, we have to protect the United States. And it's such a simple thing to do. I'm not as educated as Barack Obama, so he says he is. You know, it's very simple. You guard the airports, you stop letting people in from the Middle East until we get a hold on it. People call for world peace. You can't have world peace if you have people out there that hate us. So if you hate us, then why accept our money? You know, we give trillions and trillions of dollars to Afghanistan. We give trillions and trillions of dollars all out to the Middle East, you know, to all different, you know, people in the Middle East, you know, and every single one of them hate us. You know, it's just an outrageous thing that we're doing, and it's sickening already. And I'm tired of working every single day and all the money coming out of my check, and I know that it's going over there to buy weapons to kill our young men. Our young men need to be here in the United States, at the airports, throughout the borders, close everything up, and you don't come in. The ones that think that's wrong, the ones from the Middle East that live here, hey, you know what? God bless you. Here, you own a Dunkin' Donuts, whatever you are, I don't really care. All right? I love you to death anyhow. You're here. You're an American now. Okay? But if you don't like the way we treat you here, then get on a plane at JFK, and I'll give you the money for the ticket and go back to where you come from. Now, the ones that are here, hey, I'm a nice guy. I'll give everybody a hug. I don't care what you look like, what your nationality, you know. I have a lot of great friends, you know, white, black, Chinese. I have a great Jewish friend right over there. It doesn't matter. All I'm trying to tell everybody here is that you take care of people that love you and respect you. And if people don't love and respect you, then we shouldn't be there. And if somebody tells you they don't want you at their house, you're not going to go. Karzai said it many times, he doesn't want us there. Even though we give him $300,000 a month, and you can look that up too, because it's a fact, okay, how much money we give these pieces of garbage, and they accept our money fast enough, but they hate us. So if you hate us and you burn our flags and you disrespect everybody and you also disrespect women, then you know what? We shouldn't even be there. Let's move on, let's come back home, let's bring our boys and girls home, let's hug and kiss them here so they don't turn around and murder any more beautiful young men like this. All I'm asking is for justice for Lance Corporal Greg Buckley. And it's an easy letter. Type it up, send it out. Send it out to you, to whoever you want. Barack, I don't care who you send. I send letters all the time to everybody. Just send the letters and just put some of your heart into it. And just make believe that's your son there. And just ask for, please, justice for Lance Corporal Greg Buckley, because he was murdered by a terrorist. That T-boy is not a green on blue. Those attacks are not green on blue as they try to make us believe they are. They are terrorist attacks. We are training people that are turning the weapons on us and murdering us. That morning that my son was executed, 3 other officers were murdered in Afghanistan at a breakfast table while they were eating by a police officer. They thought they were safe because he had a uniform on. They were training that guy. He turned the weapon on them and shot all 3 officers. But we didn't hear about it. They didn't even tell Greg about it, because then they would put everybody on lockdown. They mentioned nothing about it. Then Greg, later on that night at 8:30 at night, that T-boy walked into that gymnasium, opened up the curtain, and as crazy as this sounds, at 8:30 at night, there's usually 30 Afghans in that facility. It was a ghost town that night, and you're not going to hear about this, but I did because the Marines told me about it. He walked in with an AK-47, shot it twice. Greg had headphones on, from what I understand. He undid his headphones. As he undid his headphones, he was on an incline machine working out. He snapped the weight back up, and by the time he looked up, A. Nodden, that's his name, A. Nodden, a 16-year-old boy that was raised with hate, was standing over my son with an AK-47 that the chief of the police gave him and told him to go into that gym and execute every Marine that you see. He stood on top of my son first, and he looked right at him, and he fired an AK-47 into my son's chest. And then he fired another AK-47, another bullet, right into the side of his lower part of his neck. Then brought it up and then murdered Rivera, a 19-year-old boy, shot him in his neck, and then kept it going. Dropped it after he emptied out 30 bullets and left 3 Marines dead on the floor. Ran out of the gym, ranting and raving that he did something terrific. At that time, all the Marines jumped on him and grabbed him and put him down to the floor. Then, and only then, the other Afghans came in to the facility to contain this boy. They all knew what was going on. You know, let's all be real here. They're not going to print it in the papers, but my guys were there. They turned around and they told me this. They're not going to lie to me. I knew some of them from Hawaii. They all told me the truth. They told me exactly what happened. But the media doesn't want us to know the truth. But the truth has to be told, and people have to start waking up and saying, listen, we want the truth now. You've been over there for all these years. You've killed numerous of us. I can't even get the amount of how many were really murdered over there, because they'll never really tell you the truth. These boys are being slaughtered like cattle over there in Afghanistan for what? We don't get anything from them. We don't get our oil. We don't get anything from them. The government has their own agenda over there. But you know what? It's time they got to come clean. They got to let our young men and women home, because we need our kids here. And I, as a parent, do not ever want to have another parent, especially in this room or anywhere, to feel the heartache that I feel. Or that my younger boys who are 18 and 17, to hear them upstairs in their room at night crying. Crying and asking me, why? Why did this happen to my brother? He was a good kid, he never did anything wrong. All he tried to do was right by everybody. Dad, I don't understand. The screams that my kids lay out every night when they're in beds crying is heart-wrenching to me. And I feel that I have to do something, and people say you shouldn't turn around and talk about the government. You know what, I don't give a shit about the government. I look at it this way. If the government didn't care about my son, and the government doesn't care about all my other boys and girls that are over there, because as far as I'm concerned, if no other parent wants to speak up for whatever reason, they're afraid or whatever, you know what? You don't have to. I'll say it for you. All right? Because I'm not afraid of the government. They can't do anything to me. You know, what's the worst thing they can do to me? Please, let's be real about that. I'll send her right after them. But listen, it is what it is. What I need done is I need the American people to stop sitting down and just flipping the channels and just see something happen and just like click it off and just move on with your day. You know, I know everybody has a life, but it only takes you maybe a couple minutes out of your day to just write up a letter and send it in and just ask for justice for Lance Corporal Greg Buckley and just to get these young men and women home, because no parent, like I said, needs to feel the pain that I have been going through for the past 9 months. 9 months, no paperwork on my son. And they don't want to give it to me because I'm speaking out, but I'm speaking the truth. That's what they don't want to hear. The government doesn't want to hear the truth. Well, too bad, you're going to hear it. These young men and women need to come home now. I just want to take a moment to just thank everybody for coming, you know, for myself and Greg's mom and my boys, Shane and Justin, and most important, my son Greg Jr. He thanks you for listening and helping me. Thank you very much, brother.